Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. What we're going to be talking about today is a food crisis. A food crisis that is not just happening around our world, but is happening right in our backyards, here in these United States. And the food crisis is going to be far worse than most people would dare to imagine. A food crisis that's going to be so bad in the year of 2023 that as people of the prepared mind, I don't think that there are any one of us that is prepared enough. Did you hear what I just said? I don't think that any of us are as prepared for what we are about to face. I'm trying to sound the alarm here, okay? As loudly as I can, and you know how loud my voice can be. And it's not just because I'm Italian, I'm from South Jersey, and I can yell like the best of them. It's not because of that. The global food crisis just continues to intensify. Things are going to get really bad in 2023. I have a video I'm going to show you. Okay. Actually, I've got two. One's a little comical, but it's true. The other is what is actually happening right now in the Netherlands. You know, there are 2/3 of the European fertilizer production that has already been shut down. Currency problems are causing massive headaches for poor nations that need to import food. Global weather patterns continue to be completely crazy. The bird flu is killing millions upon millions of chickens and turkeys all over this planet. On top of everything else, the invasion of the Ukraine is going to restrict the flow of agriculture and fertilizer exports from that part of the world for a very long time to come, because there is no end of this war in sight. No end. In essence, we are facing a perfect storm, if you will, for global food production. And that perfect storm is only going to get worse in the months ahead. Global hunger has been on the rise for years. And the UN World Food Program is warning that we are headed for yet another year of record hunger. The world is at risk of yet another year of record hunger as the global food crisis continues to drive yet more people into worsening levels of severe hunger. And this is a warning from the United Nations World Food Program. And that was in a call for urgent action to address the root causes of today's crisis ahead of the World Food Day, which was on October 16th. Now, the global food crisis is a confluence of competing crises caused by climate shocks, conflict, economic pressures. And that has pushed the number of severely hungry people around the world from 282 million to about 345 million in just the first few months of 2022. Now, the UN World Food Program scaled up food assistance targets to reach a record of 153 million people in 2022. And by mid-year, had already delivered assistance to 111.2 million people. But I have constantly talked about, we have warned, constantly warned, that this is just the beginning. Eventually, there will be billions of people that do not have enough to eat on a regular basis. And I, for one, am certain that I do not want anyone in this community, in this prepping community, to be one of those people that do not have enough to eat on a regular basis. In all of my years, my 46 years of being on this planet, I have never seen hunger spread so rapidly. In fact, there are large numbers of people that are now facing starvation in the backyards of these United States. Do you know all of your neighbors? Do you know that the people who live in back of you on the other streets in your neighborhood, do you know if they eat every single day? Probably not. Are they blessed like we are? Probably not. The United Nations is warning that hunger is one of Haiti's biggest slums, is a catastrophic level as gang violence, economic crises push the country to a breaking point. Nearly 20,000 people in the capital's impoverished Cité Soleil area have dangerously little access to food and could face starvation. Now, across from Haiti, almost 5 million are struggling with malnutrition. Now, Haiti is facing a humanitarian catastrophe. But most people in the Western world, they won't care until they are going hungry themselves. And that is sad. Unfortunately, that day is a lot closer than a lot of people have ever imagined. So, right now, there's a whopping 2/3 of all fertilizer production capacity in Europe that has already been shut down because of the skyrocketing price of natural gas. Europe's fertilizer crunch is deepening, with more than 2/3 of production capacity halted by soaring gas costs and threatening farmers and consumers far beyond the region's borders, and Russia's squeeze on gas shipments in the wake of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine is hurting industries across Europe. But fertilizer companies are being especially affected because gas is both a key feedstock and source of power for this sector. There's simply not enough fertilizer for European farmers in 2023. And there won't be enough for everyone else that depends on fertilizer production for Europe. And this is a really big deal, because without fertilizer, we would only be able to feed approximately half the planet. Let that sink in your head. Do you want to volunteer to be among those that don't get food? So, meanwhile, the surging US dollar is causing immense headaches for food importers all over the world. In Ghana, importers are warning about shortages in the run-up to Christmas. And thousands of containers loaded with food recently piled up at ports in Pakistan, while private bakers in Egypt raised bread prices after flour mills ran out of wheat because it was stranded at customs. Around the world, countries that rely on food imports are grappling with a destructive combination of high interest rates, soaring dollars, elevated commodity prices, eroding their power to pay for goods that are typically priced in greenback. Now, dwindling foreign currency reserves in many cases has reduced excess to dollars, and banks are slow in releasing payments, and the value of the US dollar has been spiking because the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates, right? So when the value of the dollar goes up, poor countries have to pay a lot more for their food in their own local currencies. So the Federal Reserve is actually making the global food crisis worse by hiking rates. But they're going to keep doing it anyway. And at the same time, global weather patterns continue to go completely haywire. They're off the chain. And this summer we witnessed the worst drought in history, Chinese history. Europe endured the worst drought in 500 years. And the Western U.S. continued to suffer through the worst multi-year mega drought in at least 1,200 years. And needless to say, all of this drought is absolutely devastating to agricultural production. Now, more than 80% of the U.S. is facing troubling drying conditions right now. In the middle of the country, this has caused a horrific crisis for barge traffic along the Mississippi River. And the barge industry is quite important. It's crucial for moving aluminum, petroleum, fertilizer, coal, particularly on the Mississippi River and its tributaries. About 60% of the grain and 54% of the soybeans for a U.S. export are moved via the Noble barge. And barges touch more than a third of our exported coal as well. And right now, the barge industry and all who depend on its wares is in a crisis. Water levels on the Mississippi are at the lowest point it's ever been in a decade. Now, last week, approximately 2,000 barges were stuck at one point, if you remember that, because I believe I talked about that. And sadly, very dry conditions are expected over the next several weeks, and so things are not likely to get better anytime soon. So, with the low water levels, the dredging shuttered barge traffic heading north and south on the Mississippi last week, at one point, more than 100 towboats and 2,000 barges were stuck waiting. The blocked off section of that river between Louisiana and Mississippi, it finally did reopen, and traffic is limited to one way. And that's certainly better than zero traffic, but the Mississippi is still expected to become even more parched. So the river is slurping up water, but those reserves are going to run out. As a result of this crisis, rates to move goods by barge have now gone through the roof. And we could ultimately see massive amounts of agricultural produce rot before it can even get on the shelves and get into our homes. Since many of these barges are stuck and can't move, barge prices are reported hyperinflation, okay? As of this, me talking about all of this, okay? The highest USD per ton price is $90.44. Prior to this massive spike up, it was under $10 to move a ton of goods. The vast majority of the now stranded bean piles and other farm goods were intended for major export terminals in the Gulf of Mexico. And while at least some of them appeared to be covered and ventilated, how long are they really going to last before they spoil, they rot, and they got to be thrown out? Now, on another note, a lot of people are continuing, especially for people who go crabbing. Have you ever done that? It's starting to see crabs dying off at a staggering rate. In fact, it is now being reported that the winter harvest of snow crab in Alaska has been suspended because the crab population has experienced a catastrophic decline. And Alaska officials have canceled several crab harvests in a conservation effort to send shockwaves through the crabbing industry in the region. And officials canceled the fall Bristol Bay Red King crab harvest, and for the first time on record, they're also holding off on the winter harvest of snow crab. And the decision comes after stark recent population declines of the animals. And data from NOAA, NOAA, Eastern Bering Sea surveys shows that 92% decline in overall snow crab abundance from 2018 to 2021. The Alaska Department of Fish and Game confirmed an 83% decline occurred from 2018 to 2022, as some small crab entered the population in 2022. So, and thanks to the global bird flu pandemic, the birds are continuing to die in staggering numbers as well. It's all coming to a head, man. It really, truly is. I mean, if you can believe it, right? Nearly 100 million chickens and turkeys have already been wiped out during this pandemic in the United States and Europe alone. And experts are warning that this pandemic will only intensify now that the cold weather is here. And if you've been to the grocery store lately, which I'm sure you have you seen the prices of eggs? It's ridiculous. Chicken prices, turkey prices, they're on some kind of level, price-wise. I think crazy. At this point, prices are so high that one recent survey found that 1 out of every 4 Americans plan to skip Thanksgiving this year in order to save money. Yeah. 1 in 5 Americans are unsure if they're able to cover the cost of Thanksgiving this year. 1 in 4 plan to skip it to save money. The state of economic affairs under this regime is affecting Americans' holiday plans, according to a survey. I mean, did you ever think you would hear something like this? Seriously. Things are that bad. Things are that bad that people can't even afford to put a turkey on their damn table for Thanksgiving. Think about it. But according to Potato, everything's just fine. In fact, he says our economy is strong as hell. Is it? When people can't even afford to feed their damn families? Huh, Joe? I mean, if it's true, if our economy is strong as hell, why are they so eager to feed us bugs? Look at this. This is out of the Netherlands. This is the WEF agenda in full force. Hundreds of schools in the Netherlands have started a campaign introducing 10 and 12-year-olds to eat mealworms and insects as a sustainable meat substitute. The goal is to bring about behavioral changes through unprejudiced children. It's disgusting.
Buiten deze heerlijke plantaardige gerechten heb ik namelijk ook een zakje met meelwormen. Ja? Oké.
3, 2, 1.
En hoe smaakt hij?
Wel lekker.
Ja, en waar smaakt hij naar?
Naar nootjes.
En vind je het ook niet een beetje gek om zo'n meelworm te eten?
Ja.
Nootachtig, ja, of het een zachte noot is wat je in je mond hebt. En je proeft heel goed die nootsmaak.
Gaat dit het eten van de toekomst worden?
Ik denk dat dit zeker onderdeel gaat worden van ons eten van de toekomst. Ik denk dat we in de toekomst veel gevarieerder zullen eten, veel meer producten zullen eten. En er zullen ook insecten bij horen.
We moeten allemaal anders gaan eten. Waarom is dat?
Omdat er steeds meer mensen op de aarde komen en dan hebben we later niet genoeg eten. Het eten wordt ook gebracht in andere landen en dan kan dat niet meer zo goed lukken.
Denk je dat de meelwormen en andere insecten het voedsel van de toekomst gaat worden?
Het kan wel zo zijn, maar als het gebeurt vind ik het niet erg.
En zou jij zonder vlees kunnen?
Ja.
Waarom?
Ja, ik vind vlees wel lekker, maar ja, het is niet iets waar ik voor leef.
And here's a video that I found that's quite comical. But you just never know, especially with the Agenda 2030 and everything else, what it's going to be like to go food shopping in 2030. Or, if they have it their way, 2025. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I appreciate you. I'll see you later. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping. And as always, fearless. Ciao.
That'll be 20 credits, please. Access denied.
Hey, yo, what? I don't have enough credits to buy this. What the hell?
Already brought item yesterday.
Yeah, so what? Wanna buy it again?
Card blocked due to numerous attempts.
Did you just assault our gender-neutral colleague? If you did, I'm gonna have to severely injure your body and eat your flesh according to store policy.
Yes, he did.